my son. The day you were born, the very forests of Lordaeron whispered the name Arthas.
Warcraft holds a special place in my heart. If Fear and Dark Messiah were those rebellious teenage crushes, then Warcraft was the game that felt like home. It stuck with me through so many different phases of my life. It wasn't just a game, it was a constant companion. I don't know how it was in your countries, guys, but growing up in Eastern Europe, there was only a handful of games that everyone played back then. It was Heroes of Might and Magic 3, Warcraft 3, and Counter-Strike 1 and 6. Later, some people got into Diablo 2, but those first three, they were the holy trinity. If you were gaming, chances are you were playing one of those. This wasn't the age of high-speed internet and global multiplayer lobbies, at least for us. We weren't jumping on Discord to form parties. No, we were doing it old school, LAN parties. And when I say LAN parties, I don't mean showing up with sleek gaming laptop tucked under your arm. We had to lodge entire desktops to our friend's house, tower, monitor, keyboard, everything. You had to ask your parents to load it all into a car and pray nothing got smashed on the way over. And if that wasn't an option, well, you had to ask your parents for money instead and go to internet cafe. Now, internet cafes back then weren't what they are today. They weren't cozy little spots with cappuccinos and RGB setups. These places smelled like mix of sweat, cheap energy drinks, and honestly questionable hygiene choices. And you were better not win too much in there, because if you played with some wrong people and won too much, you could get some problems on the way out of the internet cafe. But you know, those were the risks that we all knew. Other than that, they were the paradise for us gamers. They had a set roster of games installed, usually the same ones we played at home, and it was often the way that we found out about new releases. That, or we'd read about them in old gaming magazines, if you remember those. Between all the games we played though, Warcraft 3 stood out. It wasn't just a strategy game, it was an endless rabbit hole of possibilities. The custom maps alone made you feel like you were getting 100 games in one. Tower defense, Footman Frenzy, Dota, there were always something new to try, even if it meant getting absolutely destroyed by someone who knew the map better than you did, and spent already maybe 100 hours playing it. Honestly, half the time none of us knew what we were doing, but that was part of the charm. It wasn't always about being good at the game, sometimes it was actually about being bad at it, but it was more about yelling, the laughter, the betrayals, like why the hell did you attack me if we agreed to team up, and those endless debates about balance. We all had that one friend who insisted the Mountain King Stormbolt was overpowered, and let's be real, they were probably right. The dwarf could wreck your entire strategy with one well-placed hammer. Now, if you told 15-year-old me that Blizzard would one day release a remaster of Warcraft 3, I would have lost my mind. I would have been counting down the days imagining how amazing it would be to see the games I love brought into modern era, with polished graphics and smoother gameplay, but then Warcraft 3 Reforged happened. And let me tell you, I was devastated when I've seen Warcraft Reforged. It wasn't a remaster, it was a disaster, buggy, broken, and somehow stripped of all the charm that made the original so beloved. It was like expecting a reunion with old friend, only to find out that they've changed in all the worst ways, and now the only thing that interests them is to ask some money in debt, that they of course would not return. And to make matters even worse, Blizzard removed the classic version from their servers. Just, it's gone. So unless you're willing to sail under a certain black flag on the seas of internet, you're out of luck. But while Blizzard was busy stumbling over their own legacy like drunk tavern keeper, someone else quietly picked up the torch. Enter Synergy, a name that's now particularly legendary in StarCraft II modding community. And what he did? Well, the guy took it upon himself to make a full remaster of Warcraft 3. He made Azeroth Reborn. I'll leave his website and Patreon in the description. The guy is doing map making in StarCraft II full time, so if you're interested in supporting him, you're very welcome. But yeah, Azeroth Reborn isn't just a fan project, it's a love letter to Warcraft 3. You can feel it in every detail. Synergy didn't just slap together some old maps and call it a day. He rebuilt the game piece by piece, mission by mission, carefully replicating the experience of the original, while taking full advantage of StarCraft's modern engine. The level of care and attention to detail here is something you rarely see, even in official remasters. But hey, I'm getting ahead of myself. So what is Azeroth Reborn exactly? It's a fan-made recreation of Warcraft 3, but it's not some project thrown together for nostalgia points. The creator Synergy has painstakingly reimagined the entire Warcraft 3 experience, focusing on the core campaigns from Reign of Chaos and the Frozen Throne. But what makes it special? Well, first of all, its authenticity. If you've ever touched Reforged, you know what I mean when I say that something about that version just felt off. The character models were overly detailed, the colors were washed out, and somehow the game lost the charm that made the original so iconic. Azeroth Reborn doesn't make that mistake. Instead of redoing all the models and textures, Synergy kept things simple and true to original aesthetic. And because it runs on modern engine, it automatically looks better on modern screens without losing the pixelated cartoonish style we all remember. So if we think about it, StarCraft already had the features that Warcraft 3 players could only dream back in the day. Like unlimited unit selection, better pathfinding, advanced shaders, dynamic shadows, smoother animations, and all this jazz. Seriously, Blizzard had this tool sitting right there with all these amazing features, and somehow they decided that they needed to reinvent the wheel. I don't actually get it. It's like owning a Ferrari and choosing to drive a rusty old bicycle instead. What Synergy did was take Warcraft 3 and port it to StarCraft II, and why the Blizzard couldn't understand that they could do the same? Well, they're not being the smartest company lately, right? And when I say that StarCraft engine had everything, I mean everything. The pathfinding on Warcraft 3, it just got way better. Remember when you'd send your units to attack, half of them would take a detour through enemy base or get stuck behind a tree? It was like herding cats, you need to micro them all the time. In Azeroth Reborn, that's gone. Pathfinding is smooth as butter. You tell your units to move somewhere, and guess what? They actually listen and do exactly this. No more pulling your hair because your paladin decided to do his own thing. Then there's whole unlimited unit selection thing. Remember in Warcraft 3 when you could only select 12 units at a time and you had to keep creating separate control groups? Yeah, that's gone too. Now you can select your whole damn army if you want to. It's one of those little changes that makes you wonder why Blizzard didn't just patch it into original game years ago. It's not like it wasn't possible, they just didn't bother. Now let me tell you what really stood out to me. The gameplay feels snappier, the units respond faster, the animations are smoother, and everything just flows better. It's hard to put it in words, but you can feel the difference when you play. In original games there was always this slight delay between issuing a command and your units actually doing it. Here that delay is gone. It's like upgrading from dial-up internet to fiber, and you can actually make them dance ballet if you want to. And the visuals? Man, the visuals. This isn't the case of slapping high-res texture pack on an old game and calling it a day. The environments look so much better, but in a way that still feels Warcraft 3. The character models are the same classic one, but all the other stuff like lighting, shadows, terrain textures, those became way better. And what's great about it is that it doesn't feel out of place. You know how some remasters try to make everything hyper-realistic and it just ends up feeling weird? Well, it doesn't happen here. It looks exactly like your brain remembers Warcraft 3 looking. But if you go back to the original now, you realize how big the difference is. And the UI, finally the UI is so much better. In Warcraft 3 you didn't get a ton of information. You had health bars and some basic stats, some stuff was hidden behind tooltips, but that was about it. In Azeroth Reborn you can see everything, movement speed, attack speed, armor types, all the stuff that you had to know yourself is now finally displayed plainly on screen. It makes strategy games much more satisfying. Now with all the additions from StarCraft, from easier commands to more information on screen, it is so much easier to manage your armies in Warcraft without having to be a Chinese gamer with crazy micro skills. But one of the things that I love the most in this new reenactment is the tooltips. So the tooltips became much more informative. Back in the day, if something wasn't written in them, you either had to play for hours and figure it out on your own, or you had to go and read the manual. Yes, I mean actual manual, there were the books that were printed out together with the game. Now you can still get them in PDF format just to have a look. In Azeroth Reborn, everything is explained right there in the game. Want to know what unit ability does? There's a tooltip for that. Curious about attack speeds or damage types? Boom, it's also right there. It makes the game way more accessible without dumbing it down. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, I need to have StarCraft II to play this? Well, yeah, unfortunately you do. But you don't need to buy any of the expansions to the game to play Azeroth Reborn. Just download the base game, go to the custom campaign sections, search for Azeroth Reborn, and you're good to go. And let me tell you, StarCraft II on its own is worth checking out. The game has been around for a while, and probably maybe I need to make a video about it, so if you would be interested, please write this in the comments, and the modding community of it is absolutely wild. There are so many incredible mods and custom campaigns out there, but Azeroth Reborn is something special. It's not just a mod, it's a statement. Statement that sometimes modders could do a better job than any game developers. And quite honestly, with all the rumors going about Oblivion remake, I am actually absolutely not interested in it, since Skyblivion is releasing this year and I am sure it would be a better reenactment than anything Bethesda does nowadays. Here's the best part. Azeroth Reborn isn't just for hardcore fans who knew every mission by heart. Even if you've never played Warcraft III before, it's a perfect way to experience it for the first time. You get the classic story, the iconic characters, the epic battles, all of it, without any of the old technical frustrations. And on top of that, many of the annoying mechanics like upkeep, which reduces your income with growing army, can be switched off, making it more akin to modern RTS without some questionable design choices. So if you ever wanted to re-experience the prequel story of World of Warcraft and dive into one of the game with richest lore in gaming history, you are very welcome to try this mod. I'm sure you will be more than satisfied. You know, it's funny. Blizzard gave us Warcraft III Reforged, and it was supposed to be a triumphant return of one of the greatest strategy games of all time. Instead, we got a slop that was not worth to even play given all the nostalgia points. But Azeroth Reborn does the true hero of the story. This mod isn't just a better version of Warcraft, it's proof that passion beats corporate polish any day of the week. It's what happens when someone who actually cares steps up to preserve something they love. Not because they want to make a quick buck, but because they genuinely want to share the love with the others. And that's rare. You don't see that often, especially in the gaming industry. In the end, it's not just about mod itself, it's about what it represents. It's about fans keeping the magic alive when the people who made that magic in the first place seems to have forgotten how to do it. It's about not letting a beloved world fade into memory just because the ones in charge dropped the ball. Azeroth Reborn isn't just a mod. It's a reenactment of the game we all loved, and it's a reenactment so passionate and so good that for those of us who grew up in Azeroth, it will feel like home. So let's have fun.
For the Alliance!
And most importantly, for the fans who refuse to let the great games die. Thank you guys for watching. This is Neurotalk Gaming signing off. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments what is your favorite campaign out of old Warcraft 3. Let's have a discussion about it. Okay guys, see you in the next one.